Welcome to Little Victories, the self-help comedy podcast that proves success isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Hosted by fast-talking firecracker Richie DeFrisco and the ever-sly Pat the Cat Murray with the Pat Facts. This is Little Victories.
I have an amazing guest, one of the most talented people I've ever met in my entire life. Her voice is stunning, let's just say that. There's a great story about hardship, tremendous story about hardship, about what life can throw at you unexpectedly. And I also like this a lot because for people that think that they've been through some shit, you have no idea. So, without further ado, well, first, I'm Richie, but everybody knows that. Pat's always here with the Pat Facts.
How we doing?
And I would really, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Without further ado, I would like to welcome this episode, our guest, the amazingly talented, super stunning, wonderful, heart of gold, Mila Bello.
Thank you. What a warm welcome.
That was a lot to get that out.
Yeah, I mean, I thought maybe you forgot my name. I wasn't sure what was going on. A lot of words.
We kept going back and forth on the pronunciation. But I think we're good.
We're good. Mila, I don't know who's calling me now. So I met you many years ago, over a decade it's got to be. You were bartending in a bar on Central Avenue.
Yeah.
Called Spotlight.
Oh, I miss that place so much. Spotlight Cafe.
Shout out to all of the Spotlight crew because it was a community in there. It was like Cheers.
100%.
Legitimately the closest thing to Cheers I've had. Everybody knew you. Everybody knew your name. And
everyone was chill. We were a family. We had so much fun. Those were good days.
Mila!
And I always
Hey!
I always knew you were hot. So it was like, I got to try to find a way to hook up with this bartender. And we should have reproduced together, but I missed that ship just like many others. But we always had karaoke in there. And one day, the first time I've heard this, and it's like, so you get up, we're doing karaoke. I'm not doing it because the place would leave. But you get up and you start singing, and I'm like, what the fuck just happened just now? The bumps in my arms, the goosebumps all over my body, I was in shock. And I mean, they're used to it because they all heard you before, but I remember the very first time I heard you sing, I was like, holy shit, this girl is incredible.
You stay gassing me.
No,
He is.
no.
You are too good for my ego.
No, it's not. It's not. It's your voice is stunning.
Thank you. I was lucky because I grew up in church, and I grew up singing in church. And we're Catholic. We grew up Catholic, but we were not like Ave Maria, right? We were like contemporary. And I grew up just looking up to those people and wanting to be like them. And so I learned. And, I'm a high school teacher. I teach high school psychology and social studies. But my heart always has been in directing the gospel choir. So I was the gospel choir director at the school that I teach at for about 20 years until I got sick was when I directed. And we did like great things. They sang for the Pope when he came to visit in Yonkers, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago at this point. They've sung for the Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Sotomayor. I'm Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
I should say it better, right?
Wow.
They've done a lot of stuff, right? And so all that to say, I appreciate your accolades. I think I'm a much better teacher than I am singer, but I love it.
And so what school?
Cardinal Spellman High School in the Bronx.
In the Bronx. Bronx
Yeah.
born and raised, right?
Bronx born and raised.
All
That's
right.
right. Yeah.
Also, a happy Puerto Rican Day parade.
Huepa, qué bonita bandera.
Yeah.
Qué
Boricua.
bonita. That's it. Ya tú sabes.
Sí. Sí se puede.
So you just said you got sick. I'm confused. What happened? You got sick?
Ooh, so where do I even start? So I was diagnosed with stage 2B breast cancer in June of 2022. It was the last day of work, and I remember it was like a stupid hot day. It was so hot, and Pat, you don't know, I used to be well endowed.
Okay.
And so that night I went home and all I wanted to do was take my clothes off and put on the air conditioner. And so I did. I laid down and, the boob kind of slipped under the underarm. And so I went to go pick it up and it was it was undeniable. It was a lump there.
You felt it.
I felt it. And so that was on a Friday. And by that, so that was on a Friday. Monday, I had my mammogram and ultrasound and all of that. And by Wednesday, I had my diagnosis.
Because it's easily one of the scariest things that could possibly happen to a human being. But I want to go back to this because it's this again. It's like so many of these episodes that we do. It's just so much to cover in one episode, and the guests that we've had here their stories are substantial, and so is yours. And this is the first time we're discussing something like cancer on Little Victories. You go home, regular day, regular life, completely regular life. You go home, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the first initial reaction of that's completely unexpected.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind at that point when it's like, wait a minute, this is not. Are you scared to death? Are you thinking the worst?
Yes. And then there was a lot of distraction. I'm not going to think about it until I get the biopsy, right? And then I got the biopsy, and you're scared, but I have a son, right? My son at this time is 4 years old. And so, I got to figure out how to hold it together. And I was faking it. It was scary. It was really, really scary. And then you get the diagnosis. And for everybody, it's different. But my first thought is I don't want to die. And, one of the things that people always say is, oh, you're so strong, right? Yeah, you're strong because you have to be, right? You have to make a choice. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to be strong because of cancer or because fucked up shit happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then people always like highlight my faith. And I would be lying if I didn't say that my faith carried me through, right? But I would also be lying if I did not say that my first thought was anger. And when my sister and my niece said, we just got to trust in God. I said, God did this to me. Yeah. And there is a part of me that I don't live in shame, but every so often I think about it, and there's like a pocket of shame. But then I remember I'm human, right? And so with that shame gets washed away by my humanity because I said I'm gonna give myself 3 days, 3 days to like woe is me, and then in 3 days you're gonna get up, and that's what I did. And you made a choice. I made a choice,
And to kind of build on that, I always think about how. People say, "Oh, I'll die for my family. I'll die for my kid," right? Well, but will you live for them, right? And it's almost, and I'm just trying to look at it from the same lens as you are, because I grew up Roman Catholic as well. My mother still goes every Sunday. It was almost a blessing that you caught it. Like you were the one that caught it. You were the one that went to the doctor and said, "This is what's wrong." Because for a lot of people, they could be living for months, even years, and then it's too late.
Oh yeah, and particularly among communities of color, we are very underdiagnosed. We don't get checked out until it's too late. In many cases, and that's what the statistics show. Latinas are dying of breast cancer faster than any other. I think any other ethnic group.
Yeah, and you kind of segued into what we talked about earlier, the Pat facts. I see exactly that. When it comes to some statistics, I'm looking at this here that just for 2025 alone, there's approximately 316,000 new cases, deaths, which thank God we're not dealing with that in your case. Estimated 42,000 women, and so we talk about breast cancer. We want to focus on the one. I know. Cancer in general, everyone that's listening, has someone in their life that was touched by it, affected by it.
Just to interject really quick, though, because I think it's important for male listeners to understand that men can get breast cancer.
Get breast cancer,
and
too.
So, one thing that I would recommend, I think it's important for everybody, regardless, is to know your body, right? Not to be afraid of touching your body, and because when you touch your body, you know what it's supposed to be and you know what's different, right? If I didn't love my girls before, right, and know every piece of myself, I may not have recognized that was something that wasn't supposed to be there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
she means touching your body in the right way, Pat. The right way, not the wrong way. He immediately defaulted to, wait, I touched my body.
Now, I just got to say, in the social work world, or in the Freud, we call that like deflection or like projection. But go ahead.
Yeah. No. So, and it's I thought about it too, because when I was looking some of this stuff up, just coming in before and, not having met you personally yet, I almost thought about that when I typed it in, and I was like, breast cancer, and everything comes up for women. And I thought about that too. And I'm like, because breast cancer, you equate, but it's still a part of the male body as well.
Yeah,
and, there is no, shame or, stigma of, as you said, just knowing yourself.
Right.
Right.
So it's funny, that word, right? Because, again, I haven't had to deal with this. And, it's a fucked up thing with things like cancer, because it's like when people say just be grateful and take every day and be grateful that you even have today. Because you're not an unhealthy person. So out of nowhere, these things can flare up. You'll be the healthiest person in the world. It's just completely ambiguous, and you just don't know what can happen at any given moment. That's just not... And the shame thing is like, you felt ashamed because you had cancer?
No. There was a moment of shame for blaming God.
Oh.
Right? Where people are saying, you gotta have faith, and God's gonna get you through this. And I'm like, well, God did this to me, right? That's where I was initially. And then, like I said a minute ago, I said to myself, you have 3 days to be a piece of shit. You have 3 days to be angry. You have 3, and then you gotta move. And that's the recipe for me, because for me, if I did not get up in 3 days, I was not getting up, right? And your mentality is so important when it comes to your healing. And it's important to understand that I leaned into God, like I that anger, and then she is what sustained me. And so there's that kind of like.
What was the voice inside you that said, get up?
I have no choice. I have no choice. So I've been through a lot of shit, and a lot of people have been through a lot of stuff, right? We all go through our stuff. One of the only other thing in my life, I think, that has been as monumentally fucked up, but also a monumental blessing as this, is my son. My son, when I was when I found out I was pregnant, I found out like really early, right? And they don't see you till like I don't know, 2 months or 8 weeks or something like that. And in my head, I'm like, I need to see the doctor. I'd never been pregnant, whatever. And so I felt this like pain in my stomach, and I called the doctor. I'm like, I need to get checked. Right, so they come in. It could be an ectopic pregnancy, all this, right? So I go and I get an ultrasound, and it was gas. All right, but in that visit, I found out that I didn't have enough amniotic fluid, and my the implantation didn't occur high enough, and essentially, I was going to miscarry if I didn't go. Right? So they gave me hormone pills, and the next week I went and there was something else wrong. The next week I went, and it was always, so I was waiting for months or for weeks, right? For months for a miscarriage. And then at 16 and a half weeks, so that's 4 months, my doctor tells me everything looks good. All of those things that we were concerned about, we're no longer concerned about anymore. However, your son is going to be born with a series of severe congenital heart defects, and we can't treat him here. You have to go to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. And in that moment, and when I got sick, everything happens just so fast, right? That you don't have time to think. You just have to do. And if you don't do, you die.
And yeah, I mean,
right? So I didn't know that. You knew before he was born.
Yeah.
That they had told you, they were able to identify this earlier on.
So then
you gave birth knowing, and it's like, okay, now I got to deal with this.
So
and this is all before you found out that you had cancer.
Yeah.
So first you dealt with that.
Yeah.
And then after you deal with this, which is what people don't even know how lucky they are to have a healthy child. And there's too many people out there that take that for granted to begin with. In addition to that, now you face that only to find out 2 years down the line. Is it 2 years down the line from that?
4.
4 years down the line, your son is 4 years old. Now you have to deal with cancer on top of just battling that.
Yes, but it's not a battle. It's just my reality. It's our reality. So when I was pregnant, they asked if I wanted to have like an amniocentesis, and they take a big old needle and they put it in your belly button. They pull out the amniotic fluid because that's where all the like genetic material is and stuff like that. And then that would give us a better idea of what we were going to deal with. But they want you to make those decisions. They want you to do that so you can make decisions. And for me, and it wasn't about. It was about a lot of things, but termination wasn't on my radar. It wasn't, so I didn't need to have the amnio because the information that it gave me wasn't going to do anything. So why do I bring that up? I didn't know whether AJ was going to live. My dad is a deacon in the Catholic Church, and so part of the birth plan was regardless whether he needed surgery or whatever, he was going to be baptized immediately because that was something that was important to us, right? And turns out he didn't have surgery right away like he needed to. And then the next week, they didn't need to do it. And the next week, he went 4 months without having his first open heart surgery. He had his most recent one right after I finished treatment. So I finished radiation in April 23, and he had an open heart surgery in May 23. But it just is what it is.
So, Yeah. And, I was just trying to think of the timeline there. How old is AJ now?
So he's 7.
So he's 7. So what is it, 2025? So it's 2018?
2017. So he was born December 2017. He's like the very, very end of the year.
So you had that whole time. And then my next question, you kind of answered it, was like, who was in your corner at that time? Like, that's a lot. You're the mom, you're the one going through it, but the people around you must have been really trying to be there for you.
I am incredibly blessed. And I want to listen back to this episode whenever I think to myself how shitty things are, because I want to remind myself how blessed I am, because my family is an incredible, just incredible support for me, for us. Although his dad and I are not together, we co-parent, and he loves his son. And he, I make a phone call. AJ's not feeling well, and he's there. So I have that support when it comes to my son, like with his dad. But then my parents, my sisters, my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law, like his father's sister, and mom. Everyone is just so good to us. And then there's our church community, and then there was our Spotlight family, and then Spotlight. We all moved to another bar called Rudy's. A while after that. And there was the Rudy's family. And so I've just been really, really lucky in my life to have been surrounded by good people who brought food, who prayed, who brought me medicine, or just came and sat with me.
My prayers aren't worth anything because God's like, not him again.
Nah.
Please,
never.
not him again. You said something to me that is, I think, probably one of the highlights here. And I want to know, because I didn't, when you said it to me, we didn't go into detail. Mm-hmm. So I figured if we'd use this situation on the podcast to open this up. Mm-hmm. You said to me, having cancer saved my life. I want to know what that means.
So without getting into too many details, So I'm very open about my mental health. I have lived with major depression, the majority of my, certainly my entire adult life, and if I have to think back, in my youth as well, untreated because culture back then, mental health wasn't talked about, right? I deal with anxiety. I have ADHD, and again, undiagnosed. That didn't come to me until later, and so I didn't learn this about myself till I was in therapy, but like some of the behaviors that I was engaging in and just the life that I was living, those things were coping mechanisms to deal with the fact that I felt stupid. And it wasn't that I was stupid, it's that I had ADHD. The fact that how could you be so depressed if you go to a good school and you have great parents and a great family and you have everything that you need and everything that you want? And so I kind of just existed, I think. And then I had a baby, and I moved into very serious postpartum depression. And, half the battle is knowing about it and talking about it, but it was hard to move through. Then COVID happened, and my relationship shattered, and I was drinking a lot. I felt like a piece of shit, because how can my son not be enough? But it wasn't about him. It was about me, right? And so I kind of lived in that spiral and cycle of shame and guilt and avoidance and rinse, repeat, and whatever. And then I got my diagnosis, right? And then I'm crying. I don't want to die. I don't want to leave my son. And this goes back to something that Pat said. Everyone says they'll die for their kid, but will you live for your kid? And so, I'm sitting here crying and scared and angry and scared of dying, right? Well, if I didn't have cancer, I could have drank myself to an oblivion. I could have put myself in a situation that, that is not a good situation. I could have, God only knows what could have happened, right? And so cancer gave me the opportunity, so stupid, so crazy, but to just stop and to be, and to let myself be taken care of, and to think about what I want my life to look like moving forward. And so it's not just about, I appreciate the butterflies and the fairies, and yeah, that's cute, right? But this changed my direction in life. Like after being a teacher, I'm sorry, Pat, I know you want to say something, but after being a teacher for 21 years, or this is the end of my 21st year, I right after I finished treatment, I decided I want to be a social worker. I want to help people that are in situations like me and my son. And so I've been in grad school for the last 2 years. I have another year to go. Because if not, I love my school, where I teach. It's my home, it's my whatever. But I would have stayed there until I was old and gray and retired, and I would have never made more than like $74,000 a year, whatever you get paid in a Catholic school, right? And I would have just kind of been complacent, and I no longer want to be complacent in my life. I want to do, and I want to be, and I want to live.
Is this just for you, or is it now especially emphasized since you have a son and he's been through shit, right? So you want to show him, got to be strong, kid.
Oh yeah,
it's a big thing with the city, especially like I don't want to just reference the Bronx all the time, but it's all I know. Is that it's funny too, because the values I see that you're passing on to your son. That's what I got from my mother. It's like, I can't complain because this woman, her story is substantial. My mother didn't have cancer, but I did lose her 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But I feel the resemblance between I identify with strong women. I had a girl, Samantha, wonderful, 22 years old, studying to be a doctor at the same time. She competes for powerlifting.
Yeah, I saw that.
I identify easily with strong women because... my family always goes back and forth with me, but it's what I feel, my life and my opinion, and that's that. That's where the ball stops. Is that the women in my family held shit together when the men couldn't figure shit out. So I easily identify why I can't find a strong woman. You don't have like sisters.
You have a strong personality, Richie. I mean, we could
so?
talk about this off.
I'm very shy.
Yeah.
I think Pat is trying to
this
get...
could easily take
I'm very shy.
the show in a separate direction. Yeah, I just wanted to tap on that, and thank you for sharing that. It's a really, I mean, I don't really want to talk about myself. I mean, I can, but
You can't.
I
Not
wanted
now.
to.
Now's
yeah,
a bad time.
Yeah.
Pat's very vocal today.
You spoke about being okay, but then I definitely understood what you were saying, where then it wasn't enough. Like you would have been okay staying in that position. You would have been okay, getting paid and having, your family and things like that, but it wouldn't have been enough. And strangely enough, one of the hardest things, and, question before I get to the other one, was it almost kind of like a, not deja vu, but almost like a here we go again kind of thing? Because you had the timeline with your son when you were pregnant, and then now, he's alive and relatively healthy, and that's good. But then now you had to deal with that.
Well, I think the hardest thing for me from that lens is witnessing what my parents went through, right? Because I, as a mom, know what it is to see your child broken, like physically, right? And medicine and machines and all of this stuff, right? And then they have to watch. And they supported me through that, right? And then they had to watch me get sliced and lose all my hair, and my skin during radiation was pink like a pig, like it was raw, and then more surgeries, and as a parent, you got to hold it together, right? But because I've been there, I saw what's under those eyes, right? And that was really hard.
And yeah, my mom says it all the time, and I mean, I love her. Thank God I still have her. That you won't understand until you have a kid yourself. And it's almost like Richie and I could be like, oh, that's bullcrap. We can, but it's true, until I have, Pat Jr. running around or Richie's got, little Rick,
Little Dick.
Little
When
Dick.
I have a
He's
son,
going to be a little dick.
his name is he's legitimately going to be.
Don't do that to your
So,
son.
No.
All right?
So, and that never stops. That never stops. It doesn't matter that your parents are probably in their 70s, 60s,
yeah, almost
70s.
70, yeah.
You're still their little girl.
Yeah.
And, obviously that's a tough time, for anybody to see, regardless of how young or old you are.
Yeah.
I just had a curious question. All this happened during COVID. Did you feel like there was a sense of change in your care just simply because of everything else that was going on in the world?
So no. So let me clarify. So my son was born in 2017. My relationship exploded in 2020, and I was diagnosed with cancer in 2022. Okay. So we were kind of out of COVID already. Life was had pretty much resumed.
Yeah, because I was concerned about that. Because now and currently you are cancer free. Can you kind of walk us through maybe the medical stuff that kind of got you there, or what? And maybe anything holistic, anything that I know your faith is one, but anything else that verifiably got you there.
Yeah. So all right. The medical team was great. I went to Memorial Sloan Kettering, and I was previously with my regular practice, and then I decided to get a second opinion, and they actually found more cancer. And anyway, my mom said, you were not ever going anywhere but MSK. So it turns out went to MSK, and they did right by me, right? So I had 8 rounds of chemo. I lost my hair. I still have neuropathy on my right foot. So neuropathy is like pins and needles. For people who might not know, pins and needles. Well, it's a combination of pins and needles, or like complete, like you don't feel your foot, or pain. Like it can go, either way. And that's from the chemo, right? Those are the cells that didn't come back.
So if I have this right, because now I officially work in the medical field. It's neuropathy.
Neuropathy.
Right. So I didn't know about this, but my mother was diabetic. And
diabetics have neuropathy as well.
And she had said to me one time when I walked into the living room and she was laying down, and she was pissed. And she says, I wish you felt what I feel. You have no idea.
It's hard.
It feels like there's lightning bolts going up my legs.
Yeah. And then, so what do? You do medication. And that's hard too, because I went through 4 months of putting poison in my body, and then I have to have hormone. So my cancer was hormone positive, which means that it feeds off of estrogen, and so I'm kind of jumping around in terms of the timeline, but a year after treatment, when I had my breast replacement surgery done, I had my ovaries removed, so to reduce the likelihood of that estrogen gets produced. But I also have to take a medicine that stops the production of estrogen, right? So that's another thing, that when you get breast cancer and you're still of reproductive age, you have to make decisions. What am I going to do? Do I want to freeze my eggs? Can I afford to freeze my eggs? So I did not freeze my eggs, spoiler alert, and great, because one and done is good for me. But anyway, so I did the 8 rounds of radiation, of chemo. Then I had a double mastectomy. Then I had to go back in because they didn't get all the cancer. Or they weren't sure if they got it all. So I had to get all of my lymph nodes removed from my underarm. And then I did 28 rounds of radiation. And then replacement surgery and removal of ovaries, and now I'm on kind of like maintenance medication. So that medicine is what was very helpful. But and the faith, very helpful, and all this stuff. Like, if anyone who's listening ever wants like advice or needs help how to get through chemo treatment for breast cancer, please reach out to me, because I feel it's my duty now.
And she means that
100%,
100%. I know her. She'll do anything for anybody. She knows the same about me. I legitimately, I'm the guy she calls when furniture needs to be moved.
That's right. I did. It was like 1,000 pounds.
And I lifted it.
And he did.
I'm strong.
Like, oh my God, he's an ox. But anyway, so one of the most important things, I think, equal to all the other stuff, is community. And I keep saying, so in my old life, my BC life, before cancer life.
That sounds hot.
I felt very lonely, even when you're with people, and you feel very isolated, even when you're around people, right? I see you shaking your head, right? We know what it's like to be in a room full of people and feel alone. But when I got sick, I was supported and taken care of. But then, right? So there's that. But then they don't know. Because you can't understand unless you're in it, right? So then I joined a cancer community called Gilda's Club, Gilda's Club Westchester, named after Gilda Radner. Now it's like Cancer Support Community, New York and Connecticut, NYC.
Too many letters.
Whatever, right? Gilda's Club. Anyway, and so Gilda's, I got to put a plug for them, because they provide free social emotional support services for anyone affected by any kind of cancer, whether it's you, the person who is diagnosed, or you're a caretaker or a child. So they had programs for my son. Both of us were entitled to a certain amount of one-on-one free therapy sessions. But I joined a support group, a breast cancer support group, and we call ourselves the Breasties, my breast friends. And that was what really helped me, just helped me throughout, because you get to be supported by people who know what you're going through.
All of this struggle, does it fuels the fire? Because now, like you said, oh yeah, watch out, watch. I've been through that, but I'm not gonna stop. Is it because you're stubborn? What is it?
All of it. I mean, I always have been. I've always wanted to do things, but maybe the ADHD, maybe like a lot of different reasons why. But like you have ideas, you have things you want to do, and you don't do it, right? But then the things that I did really well. The choir, I did really well. My work in youth ministry and in my church and teaching, I did those things really well. But again, I want more. And I lost my train of thought because I forgot what your original question was.
Because essentially, like, so a big thing with me is like, so I'm in an intimate relationship with David Goggins. I don't know if you know this.
No.
I have mentioned it on several episodes. I love the man. I always reference the two favorite people that so it stems from Les Brown. Let me take this back. Les Brown says something where it's like, you don't know how powerful you really are. And when that made sense is when I think about like two people that changed my life substantially, even though they somehow contradict in a lot of ways. One's a spiritual person I turn to, and one's motivational, right? So David Goggins being the motivational, Alan Watts being the spiritual. And they have changed my life substantially. And the reason why I understand what Les Brown meant when he said that is because I never met these fucking people, right? They're I met them, I never met them. And Alan Watts is deceased. But how can a guy, like, let's say Watts, for example. Watts is an English professor, teacher, etc. from Britain. I don't even know how long he's been deceased for. How does everything he teaches find a guy from the Bronx, out of all things, all of his work, find me and change my life? That's when I really seem to understand how important your life is. You're changing lives. Someone could be listening to any of these episodes and because of one of my guests or something they said, change their life. And it really, even if you change one life, you won.
Get this, Alan Watts, 1950 to 1973. He's been dead for 50 years.
He's been dead that long, but yet he changes my entire life. And I mean, so before you ever met me, I wasn't a piece of shit. I was just very misled, very angry. My life was difficult. And I made a lot of bad decisions based out of anger and rage. I took my tragedies and my late teens, early 20s, I caused a lot of trauma to my mother from my behavior and my family, etc. Always worried about me because you didn't even know if I was coming home. And obviously I regret all of it, but now I see things in a different light because I was willing to do the work. This is something I always like to reference to. This is why a lot of people don't work on themselves. It's because the first word, it's work. And nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to look in the mirror and say, I got some work to do here because I'm not approving of what I see.
Sure.
So I came a long way. And that's how we fell in love.
That's right.
You would have never met me if I wouldn't have jumped out of the fishbowl.
That's right.
What are your goals moving forward now? Because your passion is changing lives and specifically children.
So this is what I was gonna say, and I think it connects. Is that I almost feel like, and this is my truth, right? But I almost feel like, not almost, I do feel like it is my responsibility to help others, because others helped me. That whole pay it forward kind of thing. And so that is why I decided to change my career, my field, right? I've taught high school for 21 years. I love it. But there's only so much you can do in the classroom. And I want to affect change. I want to bring mental health care to marginalized communities. I want to help people see that we all can be resilient. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing that I did that nobody else can do. It's all inside of us. It's how do we get it out, right? And it's about choices. And so, like I said, I made a choice. I made a choice to keep it pushing. And so that's what I want to do. Eventually, big picture, I want to write a book. I'd love to travel the world and speak about resilience. But, I mean, the goal is to raise a good human being in my son, and to try to affect change, especially when it comes to the voiceless and marginalized. And I am lucky.
I think you will, definitely.
Do you have I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, I just
Let him talk,
to
Richie.
speak on that.
You're not allowed to talk. Raise your hand.
To speak on that too. I feel like there's a lot of either comparative suffering, or because it's a very personal thing, right? And then, as you've stated, you had your struggles, right? Everyone in this room, everyone that's listening has their struggles, and I feel like a lot of people have a way of trying to minimize it because of anything else that's going on around them. So they almost don't feel like they can even feel depressed or anxious.
And I've learned that's bullshit. Or like when people say to me, I'm like, oh, how are you? And they're like, I'm having a rough time. But I can't say anything.
Because of what you've been through,
and it's
right?
like, you know what? Struggle is struggle and shit is shit, right? And like, I don't like to be pathologized, right? Where like you can't we have to walk around eggshells when we're around Mila, because we have to be sensitive of the fact that she had. No, I think we all should be sensitive to one another. Despite, like, here's what I say always: I wish that people were as kind to me and to one another as they were when they saw me with no hair. Mm-hmm. When people see you with no hair on your face and on your head, there is, and I'm not talking about like feeling sorry. I'm talking about just treating me like a human. We don't treat each other like humans. Some of us do.
Until something bad happens.
But then when you survivorship, and we don't have the time to get into it, but survivorship is even more fucked up than treatment.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, you're healed, go back into the world. Mm-hmm. But there's no, there's so much residual.
You're removed from that circumstance, because I'd see you walking down the street right now. If I'd never met you before, I didn't know you had stage 2 breast cancer, and just the chaos it ravaged in your personal life. You're just another person walking by.
Half of that's true. Pat was checking you out. As you walked to the block, I seen Pat's eyes, beeline. And was looking.
Pat is blushing, and I'm sure this didn't even happen. And Pat is blushing,
checking you out from head to toe. Like, and I heard like noises, like
animalistic. Like,
have you? Animalistic. Have you ever thought of using your gifts, especially? I mean, obviously, it is what you had said, but your voice is substantial.
Well, yeah, I know what you want to ask, Richie.
She's already knows. I don't curb my tongue. She already knows. I hit on her 1,000 times at the bar. Plus, if you give me drinks, you think that I'm not being aggressive with these women?
Compounded.
Of course. Stop. You ever think about the ability that your voice can affect other people? You ever think about dropping an album?
No.
No? Why not?
No. I don't want any of that.
I got a guy.
So I wrote a song for my son when he was in the hospital. And I am in the process of going to the studio to record that.
So wait, which studio? Because I got a guy.
So I have a guy.
Oh, you got a guy.
I got a guy.
You got a guy? I got a guy.
I got a guy.
Because you know what Italians, you know how Italians, we're the guy that knows a guy. We got a guy for everything.
Yeah, that's right.
The Italian way.
That's right. No, but I got a guy.
Can we sing it now? Oh, no.
No, I don't want to sing this one.
It's under wraps.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You're not leaving the studio until you sing a song for me.
Right.
But because people don't know your range. So you're not allowed to leave. I told the crew here at LMC, I said, lock every door. I said, until she sings, stupid. Don't open those doors. You're not allowed to leave here without showing people what you can do.
Okay. I think.
Just pretend I'm Simon, and this is Katy Perry.
That makes it hard. I think when you first heard me sing, it was probably a Pink song.
I love Pink.
That's my girl.
Just so you know, and people think I'm fucking crazy, and I don't care what people think, is when I pull up to people, usually when I'm blasting music, it's something like Pink or something like that. They're like, wow, he's out there. I'm like, yes, I am.
If someone said 3 years from now you'd be long gone, I'd stand up and punch them out, 'cause they're all wrong and I know better. But you said forever and ever, who knew? That was not my best.
You are. And then you hit high notes too.
Sometimes.
Sometimes you should make you hit a high note.
That was.
Never mind, I'll find someone like you. That's all I got for you today, Rich.
All right, but I'll take it. I got what I wanted at the. See, I'm a guy that gets what he wants.
You always do.
I always do. You know, you inspire me. And not just because I love you, but by default, and I should apologize for. I'm still in a stage of healing, which might take for the rest of my life. Is with my mother. Is I never loved someone, aside from my family, my sister, etc. But to love someone that much. But there's been countless times because I'm a roller coaster. My life, my decisions, my mind. People, it's funny too, because in our bio, I'm referenced as a firecracker because that's how people know me. Because you just don't know I'm explosive. But what's keeping me going over the last couple of years is that, especially when I go through these periods. I struggle with depression, but it comes in like waves. It comes in, it comes out. I'm fine, I'm not. And when it comes like a tsunami. It sucks.
Richie, healing is not linear. Healing is not linear. So there will be times where you feel whole and complete, and there will be times where you feel broken, and there will be times where you feel like who am I and where am I? And then there will be times where you are moving on and you feel guilty for moving on. Healing is not linear, but you have the power to create your narrative and what that looks like from here on out. And I recommend to everybody, I think everybody should go to therapy. And I'm not just saying that because I am a budding therapist, but I do. We go to the doctor. We're supposed to go to the doctor at least once a year for a checkup. We get our teeth cleaned twice a year, right? Especially when we are in grief, because it's always good to continue to be reminded that healing is not linear, and that you do have the power within you, and you're gonna be okay.
So what I do is I keep this thing in my mind which I haven't had before because I never had to deal with this before. This is all fairly new, and when I get through these periods where I'm like, fuck, is that I tell myself every day, make her proud. Don't fuck this up. Make her proud.
But you got to make yourself proud too, man.
I know. Hug me outside.
Listen, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna put you on the clock. I could keep going. And,
no, I know. Well, we could do a part 2 episode, and we might. But
I would love
listen.
that.
For the most part, I love you to death.
Thank you, and I appreciate your friendship
and now
your support
whenever you need furniture moved. I might not be a big guy, but there is power coming out of this little body.
Thank you, Mila, for sitting with us.
Hence the T-shirt.
Thank
we
you.
can't think we love you now. Now Pat loves you. I apologize that he was checking you out before, but I can't stop anyone from doing that. So your family should be. I know they are. So I shouldn't even say should. They are completely proud of you. Your son, who you inspired to no end, is looking up to you. We love you. Thank you so much for being our guest for today.
Thank you, Mila.
Thank you.
Thank you. And until next time for Little Victories, we love you guys, the audience.
What is
we
it?
appreciate everything.
Ci vediamo?
Ci vediamo, because I'm a Ginzaloon, but love you, everybody. Thank you for tuning into this episode.
Thank you.
Ciao. Thank you, LMC Media. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Little Victories. Stay tuned for more wins and more laughs. Follow us at Little Victories Pod on Instagram so you don't miss a thing.